Good morning, everybody. I am Ann Church. I'm with Villages of Santa Fe, and welcome to our program on medical billing. And we are with Bradley Coe this morning, and we are recording this. So it will be online up on our site tomorrow afternoon, along with the handouts that we discuss. We will take questions during the program. I think the best thing for you to do, if you'd like to, enter them into the chat. And I can shout out to Brad about what questions you have. And we can go along. And then at the end, we will also open this up to Q&A. We have a bit of a handout available so that you don't have to write down the information, a lot of the information that we have. I'll send it out to everybody who's registered for this program. And also, it'll be available as a download on our site. You can go to www.villagesofsantafe and go to the blogs, and that will show you where to go to. This will be with the video here. Plus, you can download the PDF that we'll have there as well. So again, we're welcome. We'd love to have your questions here, and we welcome everybody's participation because this is quite a crazy topic. And I just wanted to emphasize that one of the reasons that we're doing this is recently a friend of mine had a denial of claim. And we talked about what they should do about it. And they they had recommendations from their neurologist, they had recommendations from the physical therapist that they should not be released to home, that they should be released or retained at the hospital. And the insurance company denied their claim. And what the question was is how to protest that and whether you should or should not. And they did not. And 3 days later, he was back in the hospital. So I really want people to have that information on what is a claim? How does this work? Don't take a no for a no because you're the only one that can help in this process. You're the only one that you're the responsible party. So you just need to be that way. So let me let everybody in. Great to see you again. My name is Ann Church. I'm the founder of Villages of Santa Fe. And with us today is Brad Coe. And Brad has been with us now since 2016. This is our first program on medical billing, but we do have regular programs in the fall about Medicare and Medicare Advantage, which really helps you in that open enrollment period as to understand what's going on with Medicare. So anyway, I want to welcome Brad. And again, we will have this up on our site tomorrow afternoon. If you'd like to share it with a friend or revisit it, we'll also have the download of the references and the information that we'll talk about during the program. So, Brad, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm always happy to be here to go over things because as everyone is learning, unfortunately, firsthand, most of the time, that the system is not getting any easier out there. And, with hospitals now, different areas that you think are just one hospital, the emergency room is an actual separate business. The X-ray radiology is a separate. So they've got like a whole slew of individual businesses under one roof. And we're just thinking, well, we're going to Christus and everything should be fine. So, there's a lot that's going on when it comes to claims processing. And what I'd like to do first is make sure we have some definitions down that I'm going to be using so that I'm not going in using some word that I'm used to using and you're asking what the heck is he even talking about. So without further ado, definitions. First one, provider. So the provider is a generic term of the entity or person who is giving health care services. So this could be a doctor, this could be a hospital, this could be a pharmacist, all of this. It's just kind of a generic term, but it's that party that we will be getting service from that will be filing a claim. A claim is the provider processing a request for payment for their services that they rendered. And then when we get into the what some of the terminology that they use, the insurance company uses, we see things like allowable charge, which is the amount the contract between the provider and the insurance company, the network, agreed on. Insurance portion, the amount allowable charge by the insurance company. Insured's portion, the amount the insured person's who received the services is going to pay. Deductible is an amount in your policy that you would have to pay 100% of. Satisfy is what we call it. Satisfy that deductible before the insurance company ends up starting to participate. And we need to, when we get into this, there's when I say insurance company, the tip everybody who's on this Zoom is either in one of two programs. One is a Medicare Advantage plan where the insurance company is your primary insurance and you get care directly from them. Then there's others that are on original Medicare and they get their services from or their primary insurance from actual Medicare. So the insurance company, depending on what plan you're on, the insurance company is either an actual insurance company or it's possibly Centers of Medicare and Medicaid. That could be your insurance company. Copay is a flat established amount. You go to see a provider, a specialist, it's $40. So no matter how many times you go see the specialist, it should be a flat $40. Co-insurance is when you end up sharing in the cost with the insurance company. You co-insure. That's where they come up with this word. We end up having typically they'll call it an 80-20 split. So you're paying 20%, the insurance company or CMS is paying 80%. And then the explanation of benefits, or EOB, is what the insurance company gives after after they've adjudicated or adjusted the claim, and they send this out to you and the provider. And then that determines what your portion, the insured's portion, is going to be. So when we get to this, sorry about this. The claims processing for a Medicare Advantage plan ends up being you go to the provider.
Brad, you're
The
going to have to go back to the other screen because we're not seeing everything. If you can go back.
Darn it all. Like that?
No, we're not seeing. There you go. There, go that. That's fine.
All right. So the way that this ends up working is if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, okay, you go and visit the provider. Once you're finished with that visit, the provider then sends a claim to the insurance company. This claim is saying, hey, Jane Doe showed up today and we did this, this, and this. Now, this, and this has codes to it. So they don't just send something in and say, hey, we ended up checking cholesterol. There's a code for everything. Um, when the insurance company gets this, then they look at the policy and see what they're going to go ahead and pay, and also what the provider's contract is, that they need to pay them. And then here we go where the insurance company then sends the explanation of benefits, the EOB, to the insured and to the provider. So this will be where we end up saying, okay, this procedure was $500, and according to your contract, we will reimburse you $300, but the insured has a $30 copay. So it'll say all of that, but it's not a bill. And that's where you can go ahead and see this. And ideally, this should come before you get a bill, because then you should be able to match it up with, okay, I got an EOB that said I had a $30 copay, and then the provider sends you a bill that says, hey, you owe us $30. That's the ideal world. Then that's when the provider ends up sending the bill to the insured, and the insured pays the provider. Now, when we start getting into a Medicare supplement plan, okay, now Medicare is the insurance company. And we have an additional piece here of the Medicare supplement plan. And as they work, is Medicare is the primary insurance. Medicare supplement plan ends up being a supplemental insurance. So it works in tandem with original Medicare, but original Medicare will always will be first. And then whatever's left over, then it gets applied to the Medicare supplement plan. So it's a two-step process, as opposed to just having a Medicare Advantage plan where it's basically a one-step process. So we essentially have, again, provider visit, provider sends to CMS. That's the insurance company under this design. And then CMS adjusts the claim, and then it ends up, CMS and Medicare supplement company sends EOB to insured. So this is where it gets really confusing, because you could go ahead and look at your Medicare portal, and it can say something like, oh, so let's use our example. We had a lab test. It was $500, and CMS is saying, okay, well, we'll go ahead and pay you $300 of that. And the rest then is for the insured. So if you were to look at your Medicare portal, you're just seeing one part of the two parts that you have to look at. So it's not the whole picture. And then that $300 claim is then sent to the Medicare supplement insurance company. And then they apply all of that on there and say, okay, this is a medical piece and you still owe your deductible of $283. You pay the $283. And
Okay,
so
Brad,
that's,
Brad, the
uh-huh.
Medicare portal, is that that's the government, that's the CDC.gov?
Yeah, well, if you go on to Medicare.gov,
At Medicare.gov. Okay, all right, okay.
and you'll see a place there that says log in or my Medicare. And if you log on to or register and log into mymedicare.gov, then you are seeing your portal for your insurance company, for your primary insurance, which is Medicare. But again, that's not the whole picture. They are sending that then to the insurance carrier. So people will get an EOB from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, and they'll say, "Holy smokes, I have a Medicare supplement plan that's supposed to pay all of this. Why am I seeing that there's a $300 outstanding balance?" Well, that's because it hasn't been processed yet through the Medicare supplement, who ends up paying their portion, and that's what we end up with on the provider. But the Medicare supplement plan, the carrier that you're with on that, has their own portal also. So if you wanted to follow it the whole way through, sure, you could look at CMS or mymedicare.gov, see what Medicare has paid, and then go, a little bit later, go on to the carrier for the Medicare supplement plan, and you should see like that CMS sent $300 to the Medicare supplement insurance company, and they then adjusted it down to, they paid 100% of it, let's say. And then the provider typically doesn't send you a bill unless there's an outstanding balance. So that's how it would. Did I answer your question, Anne?
Yeah, yeah, you did. And then I just put in the chat that EOB is explanation of benefits. And
Thank you.
you'll see that coming in from different documents. This is an explanation of benefits. It's not a bill.
Correct. And under this design, the Medicare supplement, and everybody who's been on here that we're original Medicare, and you have a Medicare supplement plan supplementing it, you have two parties involved in this, whereas a Medicare Advantage plan, there's only the one party. Um, so the explanation of benefits will have basically these categories to them. You'll see the provider name, the date of service, the provider charge, which essentially is the retail price of this, and then the allowable charge is what the insurance company has said, this is what we will pay you for that service. And then if it goes towards any of these other three items, the deductible, co-insurance, or copay, and then the last column is the patient's responsibility. So again, let's say that we the provider charge was $500. The allowable charge, the insurance company said you can only charge them $300 for that. So they ended up having the $300. We have a $283 deductible. So that means that there's $17 left that we paid, but the patient's responsibility then is the deductible, the $283. So you should be able to follow this through and then see what the provider is going to bill you for. So if there's a $283 deductible, then that will be your patient's responsibility, will be 283. So then when Dr. Jones ends up sending you a bill, it should be for $283. So the explanation of benefits and the bill go hand in hand. It's just the explanation of benefits is the horse, and the bill is the cart. And we want to make sure that the horse always stays in front of the cart. And so where it gets confusing, so this is where it starts getting interesting. So at this point, Anne, are there any questions? Because we're going to start muddying up the waters a little bit here, but are there any questions up to this point?
Somebody said they arrived late and the difference between Advantage plan versus supplement. I think you explained that, the Medicare's original Medicare, you're going to have a two-step process. You've got Medicare handling it here, and then subsequently the supplement steps in. But Medicare Advantage, you're only going to see one, one interaction.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
God, I'm getting it.
There you go. Um, so now let's roll up our pant legs and start wading into this. What charges could you receive from a provider? So here, the top three are the ones that we're typically used to seeing: copay, deductible, and coinsurance. Okay, we know what that is. The new charges that are coming through are things like fees. And that's a brand spanking new thing that there some of the providers are trying to say, okay, well, we had an additional fee for certain things, like a hospital fee or something like that. And what we have to be very careful for is that there is a global billing. And this is what you have to remember is the old joke was, okay, so I'm supposed to go into the hospital and ask everybody who I see if they accept my insurance. Yes, ha ha ha. Well, that's kind of how they want it to be, but that's not how it is. You go into a hospital and it won't matter what business entity the surgeon is, what business entity the anesthesiologist is. There's none of that should be billed separately. It should be billed globally under one bill from the provider. Okay. And but the fees are getting are a new curveball, let's say. Um, Uncovered services, again, if the insurance company says this isn't part of of your contract, then we're not covering it. Now, what could that mean? Typically, what that means is that the wrong code was used. So let's say there was a code of 123, and that's what the provider has used all the time for this service. And so they're sending in a claim for service coded 123, and Medicare now has changed it to 345. And they're just denying it, saying it's not a covered service because it's just an old code. So again, this is something that we have to be sure that the provider is giving the insurance company what they want. And that's very frustrating because the insurance companies are typically changing things on a regular basis. So it's hard for providers to keep up. Um, Rule of thumb, number one, wait, but not too long. So most medical providers bill on a 30-day cycle. So if you ended up going and getting your date of service on the 10th of the month and the billing cycle is on the 15th, a bill is going to be generated for you, but it hasn't gone through the insurance company or CMS and then the Medicare supplement. It hasn't gone through the process of getting adjusted. So you could get a bill for that $500 example that we're saying. They're saying, okay, hey, you came in and did this and you owe us $500. And so that's very disconcerting to people when they get a bill like that. But the issue is they haven't gone ahead and seen, it hasn't worked its way through the system. So
I
I
think I
typically,
think we have a question. I think this is where this question, does original Medicare have co-payments? I wait for the EOB as you explained to tell me what I owe the physician's office for a visit, but the office asks for a copay. I think that may be two separate things.
Yeah, that is two separate questions. So, original Medicare doesn't have really co-pays. They've got deductibles and co-insurance. Now, again, this is just isolating original Medicare. We're not talking about it being combined with the Medicare supplement plan because in an example of the Medicare supplement plan being there, okay, it will come in then and pay their portion of what Medicare has not paid, any of those deductibles and co-insurance. Did that answer the question?
But I think, yeah, I think it does because really yeah, when you look at, yeah, the original Medicare has deductibles. Part B has that $283
Correct.
deductible, but there's no copay there.
Correct.
But if
Correct.
they
And
have a Medicare Advantage program, they may have a copay that
they
exists under that plan.
exactly, that's exactly it. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, then you most likely have a copay for that service. And that should be what you are charged. If they charge you something different, then we're going to get into this a little bit later on here, but you need to find out why they're charging you something different. Is there a fee that they've put in here now that is not part of the covered bill? So yeah, that's exactly it, Anne. So a lot of times what I'll say is just, I know some people don't like to have bills hanging out there, but if you wait for the second 30 days billing cycle, then you will find everything to be adjusted. Now, then again, if it's not adjusted on the second billing, then that's when the red flag should go up. So, second rule of thumb is no one else is going to fix an incorrect claim. It's up to you. I mean, there's the bottom line. Unless you ask the insurance company, unless you ask the provider, then they have done it according to what their system is, and the billing cycle has just billed it out. So in their mind, everything is copacetic. And and then you're looking at it saying, wait a minute, I'm getting charged $500 for something. And worst case scenario is I should be only charged $283. So again, please don't wait a little bit, but don't wait too long. And if something is coming up, then you are the one who needs to go ahead and dive in and deal with this. Rule number Third rule of thumb is know your benefits. Know your benefits. Medicare supplement people out there, the benefits are really simple to understand. You have Most of you just have a deductible. Some of you don't even have a deductible, and then things are covered. But on a Medicare Advantage plan, you have copays for all of this stuff. So if you're going in for an outpatient procedure, whether that's as small as getting a mole removed or a hip replacement, then you should have a copay for that service. And that is going to end up being in your summary of benefits. That's a great document for you to have as a reference because it does just summarize things. You can quickly get in there and find it. But there is another document called the evidence of coverage. And this is the big document. This is the one that shows all of the detail involved in this. And I don't recommend going into the evidence of coverage unless you are down that rabbit hole of trying to get something resolved and the insurance company is saying, we don't cover that. Well, then we can get into the summary, the evidence of coverage, and say, we had this procedure. What does it include? And it will have all of that. So know your benefits before you go in there, and that's what you should be able to expect. So why wouldn't a service be covered? Or why would you not be, why are you being charged this incorrect amount? Well, because the CPT code could be wrong. Like the example we just used, they're updating all the time. Maybe CMS or the insurance company is using a different CPT code for it, not an updated one that, it's just moving that quickly. And it's becoming to a point, what they're trying to move to is where everything is universal. And it's difficult because of all of the different provider systems, but it is moving in that direction. So it's kind of like the insurance company and CMS is saying, this is what we're allowing you to bill for. Here are the CPT codes that you can bill for. And if you don't bill them under these codes, we're not going to pay you. So they're kind of trying to pull the providers into using all of the same CPT codes.
So
Now,
somebody asked if you can tell if a claim is made under the right code. Well, I guess first of all, I guess the only time you would address that is if you have a denial.
correct. I would say that because I have had people who want to know all of this stuff and called Medicare and talk to a representative, and they will not go ahead and give out CPT codes. So if you said, I went and had a hip replacement, what's the CPT code? They're not going to go ahead and tell you. But if you call them up and say, hey, I had a hip replacement, here's the CPT code, is this the one that ends up being the active one? They will tell you that. So I would not go down that road unless you get a denial. If everything is working out where your explanation of benefits stated what the provider is charging and the provider charged you that, then everything is the way that it needs to be. Um, an item that we usually get here is the prior authorization. So centers of Medicare and Medicaid and insurance companies have processes that they want to see happen. And the easy one for me to explain is a provider may end up saying, look, something's wrong. I want to jump ahead and find out exactly what this is and give you an MRI. Okay. And they give you the MRI, but they didn't get approval for it. And then CMS or the insurance company ends up denying that claim, even though it's a covered charge. They're denying it because the provider didn't check with them first to get prior authorization. And most of these companies, like CMS and insurance companies, will do something like, well, you're supposed to get this X-ray first. And then if the X-ray shows this, then you can go ahead and get authorization for an MRI. You can't just jump ahead. So the two schools of thought, which you'll talk to a doctor or a provider, and they're very frustrated about that because they just want to go ahead and they feel they know what's going on, but they need these more advanced diagnostic procedures to go ahead and hopefully get to that point of being able to diagnose you. Whereas the insurance company and CMS want to say, well, how do you know you even need the MRI? What if you take the MRI and it doesn't show anything? Well, you just wasted our money on the MRI where the X-ray could have told you that. So prior authorization should be obtained by your provider. All right, I'm going to say that again. The prior authorization should be obtained by your provider. So,
And Brad, can I ask
uh-huh.
you, so then you're saying that the provider should have the knowledge that this requires prior authorization. And that does that vary from insurance carrier to insurance carrier?
Well, so the answer is yes, the provider should have that knowledge because if it's not, if they don't get authorization, then they're going to have to try to turn around and bill this. It's not covered, and they would have to try to bill it and bill the insured, which typically they're not going to, the insured isn't going to pay because they're like, well, I had insurance and it said I only had a $200 copay for this. So the prior authorization, the most of the providers now, and when I say most of the providers, the independent physicians now are there's not very many of them any longer. And if there are some independents, they typically aren't going ahead and getting too involved with Medicare. Pretty much everybody has been kind of absorbed by the different hospital systems out there. So Dr. Jones, who had a practice for 20 years, now is with Christus or Presbyterian Hospital. And so it's the hospital then that has that billing department or when you're being checked in and you're getting this procedure, then yes, it's the provider who should be checking with the insurance company about your authorization. So they have their systems and they can put this in and it can tell them, okay, you need a prior authorization for this, and then they submit the prior authorization. Because again, if they don't get the prior authorization, the chances of them getting paid is very, very little. If they get the prior authorization, okay, the insurance company has to pay. Did that answer your question? All right, let's move on. This was outside the covered benefits, like a cosmetic procedure. Again, the insurance company, CMS, is only going to pay what the covered benefits is. Um, Not within the scope of defined service, like a chiropractor. All right. So, the chiropractor can do an adjustment of L4 and L5. And if they do, and that's a covered procedure. If they go ahead and do another adjustment and try to bill for that, then it won't be covered. They'll say, well, you're only covered. We're only going to pay you for the adjustment of L4 and L5. The provider didn't send in the claim. Now, again, at the risk of throwing providers under the bus here, um, 8 years ago, when clients would have claims issue, 90% of the time it was the insurance company that was the one that had caused the issue. Nowadays, though, it is not uncommon at all that the provider is where the issue is. Um, so so they may not even be have filed a claim and they're trying to bill you. And that's where we get into some of those third party businesses inside of the hospital. Anesthesiologist, if there's an anesthesiologist on with me, please don't, I mean no offense by this, but this department, this area of expertise tends to be the ones that do try to charge outside of the scope and get paid directly as opposed to getting their payment from the hospital after the hospital gets their claim. So it's something again you've got to look at. And did the provider send in the claim on this? If they haven't, then the insurance company doesn't know to pay. Provider receives a denial of claim, but it still bills you. So again, we're talking about they've just done their thing. They put in the code they think it is, it's come back, it says it's been denied. All right, I'm sending this on to the client. Well, again, it's now your problem to go ahead and resolve this because it's your claim. And then secondary and third party providers sending an unprocessed claim to you outside of global billing. So there's a lot of things that can go on here. Um, Here's what you do to resolve things. Number one, call the customer service on your insurance. So if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, turn over the card, and on the back of it, you'll have member or customer service, a toll-free number. Call them up and say, hey, and on April 1st, I went to see Dr. Jones. They're saying that you didn't pay anything. Why didn't you pay something? And they'll be able to tell you, well, we don't see a bill here, a claim for that date of service. Or they can say something like, well, we sent it back to them um, for something. And that's what we end up having to do. So, first and foremost, I would call the insurance company to see if they've even been notified that you have a claim on file. And then when you find out what the issue is, so again, if you have a denial, why? Why did you, insurance company or CMS or Medicare supplement plan, why did you deny this? And they will tell you why. Well, they didn't get prior authorization. Okay, that explains why. What do we do next? You got to go back to the provider's office and educate them on why this didn't get paid. We needed prior authorization. You need to go ahead and send in a post authorization. So we want it to be a prior authorization, but they can send in things after the fact. They're just going to have to send the supporting documentation of why did you do this procedure? If we want you to give an x-ray, why did you give an MRI right away? And you give the example of everything that they're going with or why they did it. And so that way, then the provider then will make the corrections and resubmit the claim. So that's the second thing what you have to remember is why did this get taken care of from the insurance company? Finding that out, calling the provider's office, educating them, and then telling them or requesting them to resubmit the claim. Because if they just correct it in their system and they don't send a claim, again, the insurance company doesn't know what's going on. So they're not going to adjust anything. And in the provider's billing system, it's going to look the same. It's
And
not going to have changed.
Brad, I have a question, but I'm not really sure what it is. It says, is Medicare like an HMO require prior authorization, not a PPO? I don't understand really the question. Or I guess basically maybe it says
I,
does Medicare require prior authorization?
so here's the answer to that question. They're probably going ahead and asking this question because HMOs typically have a lot of prior authorizations because you typically have to go through your primary care physician to get the gatekeeper to get out there. Um, so original Medicare and PPOs don't typically have those referrals, but the procedure is what's going to have the prior authorization. The, so there's two things here. We need to be able to go see that doctor, number one, and then we need to make sure that the services that they're rendering end up being covered. And that's typically why you have that consultation, that you'll get into the consultation, they'll go over the stuff and they're saying, okay, yes, we need the MRI. Our office will then submit something for that. So all of these PPO, original Medicare, and HMOs all have prior authorizations on them. Waiting for, and this then, when you get this corrected at the provider's office, and they said that they will resubmit this, and the provider's office, a lot of times, I should have put down on here calling the billing office, because the provider's office doesn't have the billing stuff there. They just processed it, sent it down to their billing department. So when you call back, you can talk to the provider's office, but you might also want to talk to the billing office and let them know, because the billing office then can send it back to the provider and say, hey, you need to get prior authorization. So there's interchangeable there. Play that one by ear. And
When
then
do
you might
you
have,
when do you
uh-huh.
need to start getting written documentation?
I would say that we need to start getting written documentation if you end up having a third billing cycle and it hasn't been corrected,
Okay.
because somebody's not doing something. And I'll tell you, one of the things that ends up happening is you call up your doctor and say, okay, they're saying that this wasn't covered. The doctor's office says, well, that's the insurance company's issue. You call up the insurance company and they're saying, well, no, they never submitted the claim. So they're both pointing at each other. That's why you more than most of the time need to call the insurance company and find out where they stand. Was there a claim? Was it processed correct? Why wasn't it denied? And then you're going to be able to go to the providers and let them know how this needs to be reprocessed. But after, if you're on 3 billing cycles and things haven't changed, then there's a glitch in there that hasn't been resolved, and you may have to take it to the next level. So, here in conclusion, we're talking about know your benefits. It's up to you to fix. And don't forget about the 1, 2, 3 rule of thumb. But there are, and I'll say this, and I didn't really want to get into this too much, but Anne will have a little bit of information about this. That if you get into this and things are not being resolved, um, then you have rights as Medicare. You have patient rights, and you can file appeals, which is a disagreement on the outcome. And they have 5 different levels of appeals, where it starts out at requesting it from the insurance company and goes all the way up to you're meeting them in court. Um, there is also a grievance process, and a grievance is that you don't like something that's happened to you. It's not a questioning, a reassessment of something. The grievance is, I didn't like what they did. They charged me this fee and I don't like that. I'm filing a grievance. And these carry a lot of weight. And again, you go back to the insurance company, the customer service or member services, to initiate these. You call them up. Hi, this is ABC Insurance Company. How can I help you? I want to file an appeal on this. And they will go ahead and do it for you right then and there. So know that what we've gone through here in the different slides, that's going to take care of 95% of everything that you want to deal with. Usually there's just something that hasn't been done one of the parties hasn't received what they want and they need something else. But you may have to get to the point of saying, all right, I disagree with you on that. Well, the insurance company is saying this, the provider is saying this. I disagree with that. I want that to be reassessed, and that's where the appeals come in. If anybody has any questions out there, I've got a few minutes here for questions.
You can unmute yourself. The one of the things, Brad, I think the same thing applies with denial of service, but that's more immediate. You know, like I said, I had a friend that was moving, had been airlifted to Denver, came back to Santa Fe, and the insurance company denied their service of going back to the hospital. And they did not protest it. And then 3 days later, they ended up in the emergency department and in the hospital for 5 days. And I offered to help them, and you did too, to just be there to help them file this um, this protest of denial of claim because the doctors were saying it was necessary. The PT people said it was necessary, but the insurance company wanted to deny it. So I think that, and it's really not that hard. I think you just go to this insurance company site and you can file for a denial of claim right away.
Uh-huh. Denial of claim, or again, that's also known as the appeal. Like you're appealing this, like, wait, you didn't cover this, and the provider is saying they've sent you in all the information. Okay, they're saying the insurance company says no, we processed it correct. You're saying, okay, it's time to start the appeal process. I want to appeal this, and again, these carry a lot of weight because in the world of Medicare, you'll know this by the amount of information you're getting in your mail or your phone calls. That you wouldn't be getting this much mail, you wouldn't be getting this much phone calls unless there was value in this for the different entities, whether it's CMS or whether it's the insurance company, especially the insurance company. And and the way they have it right now is all of these have star systems on the Medicare Advantage plans. And if you lose half a star or gain a half a star rating, it literally means millions of dollars to your company.
That's
So
really the
when
situation with where the companies, the hospitals have just really stepped it up. And I have to say on one side, because my daughter's a physician, she objects to that because patient satisfaction coming into a hospital can be very difficult. But on the other side, I don't know how else to grade it. That's really the situation.
exactly,
But it is millions of dollars. So
yes,
every time they get like you said, a half a star can mean a huge difference in their profits. So they really do want to resolve this. And so so if you have a grievance and things are not going well or a denial of service, like my friend was denied that, being readmitted to the hospital, they want to get that resolved because that's going to be a ding against them.
yes, and they look at all of the dings that they've gotten, and believe it or not, I mean, like it or not, trending is a valuable thing that the trends where certain providers end up doing certain things. They have a lot of appeals. Same thing with insurance companies that I mean, I there's an insurance company out there that I represent, but I'm very apprehensive about it when it becomes the one that kind of stands out like, yes, this one covers all of the doctors and your medication. I'm apprehensive about it because they have trended not, paying their claims well. And doctors are, if they don't get paid, if the hospital doesn't get paid, then they're going to say, hey, look we're tired of this contract because you're not even paying us.
Would you stop sharing? I'm going to share my document with people that I
Sure,
was.
sure, 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 sure. Um,
I don't know. Is there a website with the ratings for the hospitals?
Yeah, Medicare.gov. Oh,
Okay.
for the hospitals?
Yeah. Or for the,
I don't.
I'm sorry, for the insurance companies.
Yes. So
Yeah, for
that's
the
the
ins
Medicare.gov.
okay. There we go. I'm going to share. So this is a document that I have that I'll be glad to share with you. So this is the kind of thing that I watch on a regular basis. KFF Health News is a daily newsletter and their website about medical issues nationally. It's very interesting. Arm and a leg is hysterical, but it's not hysterical if you're in that situation where, like it says, you're not necessarily powerless, and they compile tips and tricks and tools and resources. If you're facing a wild medical bill, you may have more rights and options than you know about. And actually, they're very interactive as far as talking with you and giving you information. So I would really suggest it and talking with them, or if you have a medical issue. The other one is, and if you live in New Mexico, and if you're not in New Mexico, your state probably has this, which is your Office of the Superintendent of Insurance, the OSI. And they can help you with appeals and you can file complaints with them as well. So those are the things that are really, I think that if you can't get your complaint resolved directly with the insurance company, you're very frustrated, you can go to your office of the independent insurance. And I'll tell you what, if they get involved, the company is going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Um, so I really think it's really, thank you for everybody for coming because I think this is one of those things where we really feel that you've got to take your power. You've got to have the power. And if something is not working for you, you really need to be in charge and document, document, document.
Yes. Thank you again, everyone, for this opportunity. Thanks, Ann.
And we will have this up tomorrow afternoon. Also, coming events in person, we have for the fifth year, we're doing our Ready, Set, Go, which is a wildfire preparedness program. And I present the Go kits there, and it's May 2nd. We have a fall prevention online class presented by AARP May 19th at noon. And our new program is Beautifully Used Skincare After 60, Tuesday, June 2nd. Those are going to be online. You can register for all of those at Villages of Santa Fe. But if you want to have a few questions, if you have questions, if you want to unmute yourself, we'd be glad to take them. We have a couple more minutes.
Did I manage to answer everybody's questions, Ann? And that's impossible.
I know
That's impossible.
it's impossible, but when they get there, if they get this, they're going to think about this. And the great thing is you can go back to our website and replay this or pull
Exactly.
the PDF and go, wow, I'm in this real mess, and I'm going to call the Office of Insurance, Superintendent of Insurance or whatever to help me with this. Because if you get into one of these really bad situations, you need all the professional help you can get. And I think that having those contacts are really super important.
And I have had people who have gone to the OSA, or in other states, it's usually called the Department of Insurance. And typically they want to know if you've already filed an appeal with the insurance company. So the OSI, Office of the Superintendent of Insurance in New Mexico, they want to know that you've already done some things before you come to them because they're the big guns, like you said. They're the ones that say, look, if you don't do this right, if we get too many complaints, then you can't market here in New Mexico.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And the OSI is very interesting. They're part of our Ready, Set, Go program because they also are dealing with the issue of homeowners getting dropped from their homeowners insurance due to fire risk. So
Mhm.
if you have an issue like that and you're here on Saturday, May 2nd, come to our program because the Deputy Director, Lou Maesis, will be there. So
And you know what? And the office of the OSA is in a very good upswing right now in New
yeah,
Mexico.
yeah,
We've had some glitches, shall we say, in the past, but it's really on top of things now, more than I've ever seen.
yeah. So thank y'all for coming, and I hope you appreciate all of the things that we're presenting, and we will see you again on our next program. And thank you, Brad, so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. See ya.